Guys, I'm going to take this opportunity with this stunning background to talk about YouTube spiritual teachers and the problem with YouTube spiritual teachers. Now, I've fallen into that category now. I know people perceive me as a spiritual teacher. I prefer to be seen as someone who shares his knowledge and information, because ultimately I'm learning by the school of life. I've learned about God by serving God. I've learned about Spirit by serving Spirit. I've learned about Spirit by being reliant on Spirit in prayer. I haven't done it through reading and blogging. I've done it through my church, which is out in nature here, be it here or in Europe, wherever it is. And the problem we face with YouTube spiritual teachers, myself included, is we point cameras at ourselves when we're at our best. But that creates a false, what's the word I'm looking for? A false level that you might aim for. It creates a standard inside yourself, a false standard for what someone who is pursuing spirituality should be or should look like. And the problem you face is when you do that, you don't see me in my slobby state, you don't see me in my downtime. Although with me, I tend to try and share, if I'm upset. I mean, the other week I was dying and making videos and trying to explain what was going on. And you see me when I'm broken from the children, but I don't envy YouTube spiritual teachers who are teaching from the West, because life's much more hard in the West, because how can you possibly understand God as well as you can when you're not reliant 100% on God in prayer as I am here? And I don't envy them, and I respect them for trying and doing what they do. However, what happens is, for instance, at the end of my video where I spoke about dying, I said I'd made a video, but when I edited it, I was coughing, it sounded bad, so I'm doing it now. When I was driving before I got sick, I was driving off-road, and I was thinking about the times where I'm slobbing around, eating avocados in my pants, watching videos teaching me how to four-wheel drive, how to off-road, because I didn't know what I was doing and I needed the skill. So I acquired the skill, but you don't see me doing that. And then I realized, because you don't see me slobbing around in my pants, I do a great disservice to you. Not because you don't get to see me in my pants, but because the image you see of me is always doing stuff like this. You don't see the mundane, you don't see me bedridden, you don't see all of those things. You just see this, and you start to aspire for that aspect of life. And of course you can aspire for moments like this, 100%. And I'm pointing the camera at me now because I feel elevated and happy, and it's a beautiful backdrop to speak on this topic. I'll be here sometime because there's a herd all the way down the road here. But the problem is, when the camera's pointing at us when we're only in our best, then I'm conscious, I'm looking at the lens and the screens, I'm just making sure nothing approaches me. When we only point the camera at ourselves when we're at our absolute best, then you get a false standard, because you might think to yourself while you're slobbing around in your pants, oh, that person who teaches me spiritual matters or shares spiritual matters, they don't do that. I need to get to that level, but they're doing it. And YouTube spiritual teachers who don't tell you the truth in that way, they're not bad people. I love them all. I love the message they put out, all of them that I've seen. However, what actually happens is they don't show you that every month they're checking, did they get enough views to pay the bills? They don't show you that they're sitting thinking up ways to generate more income. They don't show you when they're upset about this. They don't show you the fact that they're just a normal person. And every single day when you wake up on a morning, you have to remember, no matter who it is, whether it's Gandhi or whoever it is that's teaching you spiritually, someone very profound, a yogi, everybody goes to the toilet. We're all humans, we're all the same, we're all on the same journey, we all start from that bubbling wreck, that mess within ourselves. And the problem is that when you see someone only in their best, you start to create a false standard, a false goal to achieve. And if you sit in your meditation, or if you get out in nature and you feel love and you feel gratitude, more than likely you can get to where I am. You see, all spiritual teachers have done one common thing, unless they're a spiritual entertainer. There are many spiritual entertainers in this world, many, and on YouTube especially. But the difference between a teacher and an entertainer wants you to keep coming back. They'll say, something's coming soon, the event is here, this is happening. And this is actually quite damaging if you think that that's your teacher, because what happens is when you hear someone teaching you and you say, hey, they've got the answer, what happens is that quaking, bubbling wreck of a mess that humans are at their foundation, they found the antidote. And the antidote is silence of mind as you look upon this now. To not describe them as elephant, to not describe the image, just to feel it, be part of it, be an extension of it, it be an extension of you. That's the antidote to the mess of humanity. And if you sense it in other people and they're not guiding you to that antidote, then there's a problem, because once you've touched it, you in your own words can describe the awakened state. Because once you've been there, you can begin to describe and share with the world exactly what it is to be awakened and how it felt for you to be awakened. Wow. They're knocking fruit down off the tree behind me. I can see them. So to be in that awakened state is something that we can all achieve. And you should aim for it, and then you can teach too. Anyone can teach. Anyone can teach what they find if they find the awakened state. But be careful of YouTube spiritual teachers that you find online who don't show it all. Not that they're bad or anything like that, but just as our human nature, we point the camera at ourselves when we're at our best. And because we point the camera at ourselves when we're at our best, we get this false standard. And I think any YouTube spiritual teachers who watch me, they should do a video to say, I'm normal. I slob around in my underwear watching videos on how to four-wheel drive on YouTube so as I know what I'm doing when I'm off-roading. I'm not always perfect, and many people, when they meet me, I'm sure would be disappointed because I swear and I get grumpy and all of these things. But you should know that what you're hearing from me when you feel, wow, he has an answer, is the fact I touched the antidote. And the antidote is simply the thoughtless state where you come away from your description, your illusion, your segregation from this environment. Because as I say, the environment is happening there, right now. All of that is happening now. But how do I describe how I feel there? I can't, because my linear processing system takes a long time. And once you understand how to undo that and undo this, you've awakened. And once you've awakened, you can teach anybody anything using your own words, not using buzzwords like starseed and indigo worker, but just from your own heart, and you can describe the awakened state. And if you're watching anyone who's describing the awakened state, then they will not want you to keep watching them. They'll want you to awaken and walk away. Unless, with myself, I'd like you to keep watching us so you can help support the children and grow the channel so we can get more help for the kids. But if I were to be a true spiritual teacher, I'd teach you what I know of the awakened state and say it's up to you. And that's how it should be. But you shouldn't look at me and think, wow, that's the standard I need to ascertain, because you don't see the full standard. And I slob around, I get grumpy, I get tired, I get sad, I get all these problems. I'm having some psychological, emotional problems at the moment. That's why I'm out here now, because I needed a good dose of medicine after what happened to me. And this is the best medicine for me. It's the time in my church. So be careful of that. If you're a teacher or if you're just watching me, at least understand that you can't, and you cannot expect the standard that you see these people in to be real. They're in a controlled environment, they're not in a living environment. And I want to live. I don't want to be in a controlled, I'm always happy, I'm always blessed, because that's not life. That's a falsehood. That's a lie. You come and live in the real world away from the controlled, complete controlled, where you have basic reliance on your financial status, etc. You come to somewhere like here. Fritzy had to go for some shopping the other day. It took her 48 hours to get home because her car got stuck. That's life, and you have to adapt. Your mind has to say, hey, this is what's happening to me right now. And if your mind doesn't adapt, you'll suffer and you can't cope with it. You can't cope with life because you've been programmed into the linear processing system and away from the antidote. So that's the problem, predominantly. YouTube spiritual teachers, me included, we set a false standard that you're not going to achieve. And also at the same time, many people, they're sharing information, which is great, but you have to make sure you find a teacher who directs you to the antidote of the problem and needing spiritual awakening. Everyone's coming from the ego, everyone's coming from the flesh, and the whole idea is the antidote from that is to take no thought. And if you can receive that, or if you've developed that skill, then you're good to go. But if you then want to take an entertainment, you can take an entertainment. But if they're not giving you the antidote, then be sure that you know they are an entertainer. And they, like you, have problems and need you to watch them to pay bills, because they, like you, are a servant of this system that none of us really chose to belong to. No one's fault, so just how it is. Right, I'm going to get off and enjoy what I presume will be a few hours with these guys, because they don't seem to be going anywhere. Love you all. Bye.
Spirit bird, she creaks and groans, she knows she has seen this all before, she has seen this all before, she has. Spirit bird, she creaks and groans, she